Hi folks, welcome to today's color process video. I actually had to think about what I was saying there. I nearly stumbled over my words. Also, I'm still drinking that mocha I was drinking at the last video because here's a little secret. I record all these videos at once. Anyways, I'm just going to take a little sip of this. Ah, dramatic sipping sounds. Yeah, so today's comic is another example of one like the one I posted on Thursday, of a comic where the colors do the vast majority of the grunt work here because there isn't all that much in the way of actual drawn line art. I'm kind of repeating myself because I said the same thing in the last video, but it's true. And as a result, there wasn't actually all that much work to do with this one. Besides making sure that the colors I chose contrasted well with the dark background. Um, like that little kind of a Link stand-in character. For those of you not familiar with who Link is, he's the protagonist of the Legend of Zelda games, and he's the protagonist of this comic. Yeah, so that character, usually his hands and feet would be a much more vibrant kind of pinkish red. But when I tried using that color in this comic, it didn't work well for some reason. So I actually ended up going with a slightly more desaturated version of that color. Oh yeah. I know why it didn't work. It wasn't because of the dark background. It was because of my use of super uh, the super saturated and high contrast blood that I have in the final two panels, and especially in that last panel. Obviously, it's dripping down and it's like going over the character's feet, so his feet are in the blood. And when I put in his original feet colors, they blended in way too much with the color of the blood. So I had to darken the colors of his hands and feet as a result, but not too much so that they at the same time wouldn't blend in with the darkness of the background. And really, the rest of the comic was just a matter of eyeing up the colors that were in the screenshot of the original, like the original screen from the NES game that I was referencing in this, and just doing my best to get the look of that part of the game across, but not be overly slavish towards it. You know, like I didn't open the screenshot in Photoshop and like literally color drop each color that's that's in the screenshot. I just did it all by eye because it's not all that complicated. And I mean, also, if I used the colors directly from the NES screenshot, then the colors would have been too saturated looking. They wouldn't have looked nice. So I had to just toy around with things, go for colors that were fairly vibrant, but still just a tad desaturated. Bar the blood, of course. Like as I've explained before, I like to have blood be illogically vibrant. That it's the when it shows up in a panel, it's like the one thing more than anything else that will absolutely stand out. Because I think that's important. It's such a shocking thing to see that to get that across, I think you need to have that kind of vibrant color, or at least in the case of my work, anyways. Another way I changed around the colors here was if you look at the sword, if you're not familiar with the original game or the screenshot I was referencing here, the sword you get in the game, it's like a I think it's like a wooden sword. So it's got, as far as I can recall, I think it's got like a, I mean, obviously being a wooden sword, it's got like kind of an orangey kind of a color to the blade, and the hilt is, I don't know, I think it's maybe another color of brown or something. But here, for the sake of contrast, I felt it necessary to go for the blue hilt and just a pure white blade. Like I didn't actually, typically I'd go for kind of like just an off white kind of gray color for a sword blade, for any kind of blade for that matter. But in this case, I wanted it to really stand out and contrast against everything else. So I just went for I just didn't color in the blade at all. And the reason I went with the blue for the hilt was, okay, first of all, for contrast purposes, but also because in the latter games in the series, Link's token sword, he's like iconic sword, is the Master Sword, which has this very distinctive blue hilt. And okay, while while some pedants in the audience might look at this and go, "Bah, bah, 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 that's not the sword Link got at this point in the game," whatever, artistic license. And also, I just look at it as a nice little reference to the future games, which is why I like. Also, I have the sword floating above my Link stand-in character, whereas in the actual game, um, when he gets the sword, he actually holds it up into the air rather than it floating above him. But again, I just thought it was a nice little callback to the other Zelda games to have this item floating above him, and I just went with that. Is there much else I can talk about here? Do you know what? There really isn't all that much to say beyond that. So rather than prattle on endlessly while you roll your eyes, I will just leave it at that. So I'll talk to you at the next video. Take care.